Today we're going to be talking about my W204 C350 here. As you can see right off the bat, it looks completely different from what it looked like last week because I did a lot of stuff off camera, and that was honestly quite a bit of a pain to do because I had to take off the bumper and as well as the back headlights and taillights and even this one right here. Now the thing is, I can't really drive this thing, and look at the amount of pollen this car already has. I literally cleaned this like last night, and guess what? It is spring. You could definitely see a lot of that pollen going around. But the funny thing is that this tire right here has a freaking nail on it after my road trip to Shenandoah, which is about like a 400-mile road trip. It's freaking hilarious how I got a nail somewhere here. I'm trying to remember where it was, but my friend doesn't really have his shop open until tomorrow, which is Monday, so that's unfortunate, but luckily enough, it's the weekend, so I'm not really going anywhere. It's losing air slowly, but how the heck do you get a nail a month in with your new set of tires? I'm gonna introduce you guys to my new pair of headlights. I got these. These are called Per Day or Pier Day. Link will be down in the description, but they essentially mimic an OEM W204 pre-facelift C63 with the black housing on the inside. So it's still OEM, doesn't really do any LEDs or fancy weird W205 mimic imitation types of headlights. So you still have your usual bulbs that goes bad on these eyebrows and your usual halogen turn signals and whatnot. But I did upgrade the high beam to LEDs as well as the low beam, so those are practically LEDs. Now looking down over here, I got a new housing for my fog lights. Same bulb and everything, I just changed the housing, so as you can see, it really makes a big difference. I mean, that thing looks brand new. You can't even tell this thing has about 150,000 miles on it. Excuse me for the pollen, but this is where it had some water intrusion, and you can see how it's crystal clear. Now, there are some gaps right here, so I don't think I did a good job putting it or alignment-wise, and that's the same with the headlights, actually. It took me forever to just match the little gaps right here, which was a pain in the butt. It took me probably an hour, and I could not get it close, at least from my perspective. But I mean, from far away, you can see it doesn't really look too much of a difference. I also replaced the horn with some newer 2011 horns, which they sound a bit different. Didn't really do anything on the engine, but I also did replace this turn signal right here. So when I open it, you can see the sequential thing right here going on. Pretty cool sequential OEM plus look to it. I was thinking of getting an all black one, but in my personal opinion, this car doesn't look good with an all black chrome delete. It never does, and it never will. I feel like that's really reserved for certain cars. This car is more on the classic side of things, so I like the little chrome stripes wrapped around here. I figured this would be just a little bit of a better touch rather than having an all black turn signal in the mirror. The good thing about this one, which I found on Amazon, is that the housing is actually black. So the lens is clear, but the housing on the back is slightly dark, and so it really matches well with the headlights right here, as you can see. Now, I'm not really planning on doing anything with the grille. I feel like the grille helps it stand out a bit. Black grills or whatnot, it just feels cheap and looks cheap in my personal opinion, so I feel like that's not really something I want to do. I just had a neighbor compliment my car, but that's great. I feel like the only thing I should probably replace on the front end would be the badge right here. Maybe a black badge, because this one right here, which I believe is the original, is practically worn out. That's something I can replace. I completely forgot about that. Now, moving on the taillights. This is probably my favorite part because it really makes a big difference from my base halogen non-LED taillights, which I still have and is for sale. So if anybody's looking for that, you guys can contact me. These are the upgraded, quote-unquote, facelifted LEDs. So these are full LEDs. So you have LED brake lights, LED turn signals, and LED reverse lights. So if I go ahead and you can see the turn signals are red, and the best part about this is that if I turn it on, you can see if I turn it on, it looks really good at night. You can't really see it properly, but these two strips of LEDs really give this design a fresh new look for sure. In my personal opinion, it looks really wonderful with that. Let me go ahead and turn on the turn signals. Well, one thing's for sure, it definitely looks a lot better than stock, as you can see right there. Really nice looking pair of aftermarket. Now these are aftermarket and I was quite nervous by how they would look, but I feel like they turned out pretty good. A lot better than I expected it to be, because I am an OEM plus type of guy and I don't want any aftermarket looking janky. The pictures or the diagram on Amazon with these pair of headlights, they never look good. So I was planning on returning them, but when they came here, they worked pretty well. I did have trouble with the left taillight. For some reason it did not. It wasn't working, and later I found out that I was actually accidentally screwing the wiring harness on this in, so that's why it wasn't working. But now they seem to be working perfectly fine even after a week. Okay, I turned on the fog light and you could see that it's pretty much full LED. If you guys didn't know, Mercedes only has one headlight for the fog light on the rear, so it looks kind of janky and cheap. My personal opinion, it should have been both, but it is what it is. That's designed by Mercedes. But when you look up front over here, as you can see, it looks so nice with the LED fog lights and then the, well, HID mimicking halogen bulbs on the fog lights. Really nice looking car now, in my personal opinion. I mean, this really wakes up the look. It doesn't really look like a 150,000 mile car now, let alone after I cleaned it today or last night. It looks a lot better for sure. It definitely looks a lot better. You know, I'm really looking forward to it. Now I'm going to be working on maintaining this car. So I have a lot of things in mind, such as the brakes, the oil filter housing, which is leaking a good amount now. So that's definitely going to be something I will be working on the next couple of weeks or months. It's going to be raining for the next couple of days, so I can't really do anything with this car, but really nice. I probably would want to make a walkthrough with this aftermarket head unit right here. I feel like that would be a separate video. It just makes more sense if I want to go in depth, because there's not a lot of people explaining what these aftermarket head units are. And these are probably the most popular types of head units for this vehicle. This is a 10.25-inch CarPlay display. One thing to note, these taillights are very easy to replace, surprisingly. You have access right here. Actually, you can see the what do you call this, little canvas resistors right there. The left side's a bit more tricky, but it wasn't too hard. Just had to remove some of the little clips right there. Probably another thing I would want to go to the junkyard is place this little plastic cover right here for the trunk, because this thing has snapped as usual. And I believe one of the clips right here, yes, right here, this one's also snapped from just old age. So I do need to replace that. You know, it's just little things here and there now. I've worked practically everything. It's just the little things that just drives me crazy. Exterior, aesthetic wise, mechanical wise, that's another story, but you know, you can't really expect perfection with what, 2008 vehicles, at least a decade old vehicles. But you know, for 150,000 miles, I'm really not complaining. This is one of the best cars I've ever owned, even in 2025. I got this in 2022, wanting an Audi A7 or A6, but ended up with a really reliable vehicle at the end of the day. And I'm not replacing this until this thing just blows off or something. Knock on wood, because I really want this thing to last forever.